The cat in this painting is Bean the cat. He's not my cat, unfortunately. He belongs to my brother and sister-in-law, and he's one in a whole menagerie of like 5 or 6 just gorgeous cats. They're different breeds and different colors, and they're all just really sweet, well-kept, well-groomed animals, and I love going over there because I get to see and pet all these cats. And whenever I go over there, I usually end up taking a bunch of pictures because I tend to hoard reference photos, and there's just all these cats that would make great subjects for studies. And so this time, last time I went over there, I got a good picture of Bean. I love taking pictures of Bean in particular because he likes to sit funny. He does this thing where he'll slouch back against something and kind of put his hands down in front of him like he's just a person slouching on the couch, almost like Al Bundy style, if anybody remembers that. And this time I didn't manage to get him in that kind of pose, but I did see him over by the window. He was sitting on this cardboard peanut-shaped cat lounger next to the window, and he was kind of reclining on it, and I don't know, he was in this strange pose where he had one leg up, as you can see, and he was kind of recoiling slightly and looking at something above our heads on the ceiling that only he could see, which was kind of weird, but also kind of cool. And so I took out my phone camera and I snapped a picture. And this photo, of course, stayed buried in my phone camera reel for a very long time, until one time I was going through the pictures months later and I was like, oh, yeah, this would be a good thing to paint. And so I set about trying to paint a picture of this cat. And of course, my initial thing that I did, the first step in the process, was for me to try to talk myself out of it. Because I looked at the picture and I looked at this cat with all that fur, all that long curly fur, and I said to myself, do I really want to do this? Like, is this something I really want to commit my time and energy to? Because it looks like it's going to be a huge pain to try to execute. But when it came down to it, of course, I couldn't actually resist doing it. I've had a lot of practice painting fur and hair and stuff before, as you can see in a lot of my other stuff, and I'm always trying to get better at it, and this looked like a really great opportunity to try to practice that further. And to try to make it a little bit easier on myself, I figured from the get-go I would just do a very straightforward cat study. You know, just paint Bean where he sits with the regular lighting that appears in the picture, and just paint everything exactly the way I see it so I can learn something from it and have something I can be proud of. But, of course, that's not what happened at all, because pretty early on in the process, I decided that the original picture just wasn't dramatic enough for me. The first thing I thought about changing was the daylight in the photo. When I took the photo, it was broad daylight, as you could see in the beginning of this, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought maybe it would look cooler as a night scene. That would make it more dramatic. So I played with the idea of making the window dark and changing the lighting on the windowsill and the cat and his little bit of furniture there, and I liked it, so I committed to it. And that wasn't too bad to begin with, but then I decided also that I wanted him to be sitting on something a little bit more fancy than a cardboard peanut-shaped cat lounger, and what I had originally envisioned was some kind of fancy furniture, so something tufted, you know, a tufted couch or a chaise longue, I don't know how you say it properly, but one of those things, just something fancier than just a cat lounger. And so I started that. I put down the basic shape I wanted and changed the color to what I wanted, and then I continued on with painting the cat, which amazingly, that was the one thing that did not give me trouble in this painting, was painting the cat fur. And that's strange because I thought that that would be the thing that would make me quit this for sure, is just trying to render and paint all that fur, especially with the changes to lighting and stuff like that. But happily, that was not a problem. And I'm incredibly grateful for that, because that was a whole lot of fur. And it took me a very long time to do, but that was okay. And I got through it, and then I had the cat, and I was fully committed, and I'm like, well, I can't stop doing this now because I have this amazing cat, and I have to just build up everything around it. So here I thought I was mostly out of the woods, having done what I thought was going to be the hardest part of this painting, but unfortunately I was completely wrong about that, because even though the cat didn't really give me many problems at all, the chair and the windowsill and all the perspective involved with that was the thing that really kind of messed me up. Starting out with the picture, I took a picture with my phone camera and I didn't think about it much. I just kind of held it up and snapped the picture, but it distorted the picture in strange ways. And it was something I really should have considered before jumping into this as a full painting, not just a study. So there's that distortion making the angles of the windowsill and the chair, or his, cat lounger in the picture as it was, look pretty extreme. And I looked at it for so long doing this painting because this is like, I don't even know how many hours I spent on this. But anyway, I didn't recognize the fact that it looked inherently weird because of the picture that I took. And so I was happily painting it, not really thinking about it. And it turns out that I had to keep on adjusting the perspective of the windowsill. And then when I thought I had it right, somehow the layer with the perspective lines on it got skewed. I'm not sure what happened there. I guess I moved it without thinking about it, but I had to go back in and readjust that and make a bunch of adjustments to it. And then when I tackled the chair, that was a huge pain because I knew what I kind of wanted, but my perspective isn't solid. Like, I'm not fantastic at it. I can do detail work quite well, but perspective, I've never been great at it. I can do the basic stuff, but it's still a struggle for me for some reason. And so trying to make the initial shape of the cat lounger into an actual, I guess, correct looking piece of furniture was a huge struggle. And it just didn't want to resolve into something that looked like a regular piece of furniture that you would see in someone's house. So I ended up just kind of taking the original shape of the cat lounger and making it into something that looked like it was supporting him properly. And it looked fancy, and I kind of just went with it because I wasn't sure what else to do. So it's probably not a piece of human furniture. I guess you could say maybe it could possibly be a theoretical piece of cat furniture that he's lounging on. I don't know. I just put the velvet finish on it and did the tufting on it and kind of called it a day because I wasn't sure what else to do at that point. And if you don't scrutinize it, if you don't look at it too hard, then it looks acceptable. It's like, okay, that's a nice fancy little piece of furniture he's sitting on, and it's got decent details, and we're just going to leave it at that. And then after that, I got into the curtains because there were no curtains in the original photo, but I thought, just add a little bit of luxury to it. He's already got the fancy chair under him, might as well put some curtains on there for visual interest. And I had the idea to use the pattern from my curtains that I have in my living room downstairs, because I don't remember what the fabric's called, whether it's jacquard or something like that, but it's got the kind of weave where some of it's reflective and some of it's matte, and that's pretty cool. So I decided to try to apply that to the curtains in my painting. And so the first thing I did was kind of just draw it by hand, but that looked a little weird and off. I couldn't quite get the pattern straight on it, and so I went around it by using a little bit of Photoshop magic, meaning I drew out a flat pattern to what I want it to be, so it was all regular, it was all straight, and then I kind of applied it to the shape of the curtains. And I've done this in other paintings too, with great success, just because for some reason I can't make patterns wrap around objects very well. So it is what it is. I used Photoshop to work around this problem, and it turned out pretty good. And again, if you don't look at it super hard, then it looks nice, and it's okay. And then there was a struggle with the windowsill, trying to get their perspective lines straight again and adjust the windowsill to what I wanted. And I kind of fudged that. That wasn't exactly the way it was in the picture, so I just made it look how I thought it should be and just made it kind of look good. And then it was just a matter of refining everything, making sure all the details were straight, the lighting was adjusted properly, and just trying to get everything refined enough so that it looked good up close and I could start finishing the painting. However, there was one last thing, and that was his reflection in the window. It didn't appear in the photo, the daytime photo, but I knew it was going to be there for nighttime, and I guess I could have really worked at it and did proper perspective and plotted everything out, but I was too tired to do that at that point, so I just kind of fudged it and made an approximation of what it should look like in the window. And of course, right at the very end, when I thought everything was completely finished, I realized that the perspective on the chair was a little bit off and it just looked weird. But rather than go back in and try to actually fix the whole chair, I just drew a transformation box around it and warped out the corner until it looked right, because at the end of the day, I couldn't bring myself to do any more to this project. Thank you, Photoshop. And that's about it. Thank you for listening to me ramble about my painting. I'm Juliana Wynn. This is Can't Talk Must Paint, and if you guys want to see more cool stuff that you can't find anyplace else, check out my Patreon page. You can find the link in the description. See you guys next time.